Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance. So sit back, relax and enjoy some satisfying stories. She didn't want to hear about her car being towed. I work security for a private business campus that has venues that are often rented by outside groups. One particularly large hall was rented by a local church group and we sold their tickets at the box office immediately in front of the venue. Without going into boring detail, there was only one way into the hall for the general public, but numerous exits with cameras everywhere. Parking is free in all three of our parking decks, except in clearly marked reserved spaces, which will be important soon. While visitors were still arriving for the event, our dispatch center received a call from our largest campus tenant complaining that a car was parked in one of their 24/7 reserved spaces and they need it moved ASAP. This company pays for these spaces and is constantly using them at all hours of the day and on weekends, which is why we have numerous highly visible signage for this row of spaces warning people of this fact and that towing is enforced. We reviewed camera footage and saw that the owner was a woman dressed in fine Sunday clothes that were an almost painful shade of lime green with a matching hat. This would have been enough to identify her even in our large hall, but we noticed that she bypassed the ticket line and made her way to one of the venue exit doors. She stayed there several minutes, and when one of the clearing staff exited, she slipped in behind them. We're still not sure how she knew she could do this, by the way. As the supervisor on duty, I entered the hall and found her in one of the front rows sitting in a group of people. She saw me coming in my security uniform and immediately scrunched up her face. "Ma'am, can I?" Her interrupting me, "Now I just sat down, what is it you want?" She was already on the defensive and loud, not a sign of innocence in my experience. "I'm with campus security and I need to ask," her cutting me off again, "what you need to do is leave me alone. I'm sitting with my family and we're here to enjoy my nephew's concert. Ain't nothing so important you rent-a-cops need to be bothering me like this." "Actually, it is important. If you wouldn't mind coming with me, we can talk in the aisle and..." No, she thinks I'm here because she didn't buy a ticket, but I don't care about that. I'm trying to tell her about her car before we have to tow it. This is her only chance to move it herself. "No, you ain't kicking me out of here at my own nephew's church concert." Now she starts avoiding eye contact with me. "Ma'am, I'm not here about how you got inside this hall. Her raising her voice even more. "I don't know what you're talking about, but you need to leave me the heck alone." At this point, it was so comical that I remember getting the biggest smile on my face and telling her, "That's all I need to hear, enjoy your show." I left and had her car towed immediately. 2 hours later, she reported her car stolen to our security desk. The desk officer informed her that she parked in a reserved spot and that security had tried to make contact with her before the show began, according to our log. She loudly demanded to speak to whoever was in charge, and that's when I came around the corner and introduced myself. The look on her face was priceless, and she didn't say another word as I gave her the information for the tow company's lot, which was closed by that time. Hey, well, if you don't pay for the venue, you've got to pay somehow. Nasty HR claims policy, and then it's used against them. I used to work for a big global company at one of their many big sites as an operations manager. Loved the job, hated the company. I hadn't gone by my legal name in about 12 years at this point. Everyone knew me by another name. I used it everywhere. All my clients used it, and my name badge even used this name as there was a section for preferred name when I started right there on my application. I had zero problems up until the new HR manager arrived. She was a nasty cow and especially disliked me. At around 8 months working there, I still hadn't received any business cards and had put in many requests for them over the time. I think maybe the new HR thought she was going to pull one over on me, as she did indeed get my business cards printed and delivered, all 300 to me, all written with my legal name. I questioned this and was told it was company policy, and that I would need to write my preferred name on each card if I wanted to keep using it. Even though there were several other managers who also didn't use their legal names, and yet had their business cards printed as they wished, I was singled out. She was so darn smug about it. And at this point, malicious compliance is really my MO. I had never worried about changing my name legally, as it had honestly never really been an issue. People will generally call you what you introduce yourself as. But, well, opportunity came knocking at my door, didn't it? I spent $160 and a full day at the courts changing my name legally, and heck, while I'm there, I'll just change my last name too. I was never attached to it, and this one is much better. I also went and applied for a new driver's license and spent the rest of the afternoon faxing my new documents off to the many places that would need them. It was a lot of work, and it did end up costing me about $200 all up, but walking into work the next day was the most satisfying day of my time there. I was able to hand over my official change of name certificate, and I personally handed the HR manager back all 300 brand new, completely unused business cards with my now previous name. And to top it off, she had to update all my files and my contract, send everything to head office to be completed, and then had to come crawling back to my office for me to sign each one with my new name. It probably explained the vindictiveness she displayed later, but I ended up quitting not long after. I doubt head office would have liked having to fork out for another set of business cards either. And sure, I had to spend a bit of time and money doing it, but it was something I should have done a long time ago anyway. I just got a little shove in the right direction, and the payout was so satisfying. That's some next level malicious compliance, changing your entire name just to prove a point. We can submit our work every week? Cool, I won't then. I am an editor for a news network. This is not my malicious compliance, it is the consistent malicious compliance of not only a co-worker, but an entire team. We started a morning clip show to take highlights from the programming from the day prior that runs at different times of day and play them to an audience that may not be watching when the shows air, to draw in new audiences to those programs. It's tied together by an in-studio person giving context for the clip. When the show started, an email was sent saying each show can submit what they believe is the best part of their show to be featured. Every show did it but one. They needed to be hounded each time to turn something, anything in. They eventually agreed that the original summary of how to submit said they can turn something in, they don't have to. A higher up clarified, yes, they have to turn something in. Again, none of the other shows have any issues here. They want more people to watch their content. This one show, as an entire team, claimed they were too busy to do that. None of the other shows are too busy to do it, and do it on time, and don't need reminded or pressed to turn something in. They said since the initial email said they can turn something in, and now they are told they have to turn something in, that they should be fine turning in a large block, and the producers of the clip show picked the best part. A team unassociated with the content, uninterested in the content, should be picking the best content for another show. Mind you, the clip show team is swamped. That was accepted by higher up. This means every show, the malicious compliance team submits a request for a large portion of their 25-minute show, often basically an entire block of roughly 10 minutes, to me, to be cut from the entire show, set in point and out point, who sends that to the producers of the clip show to decide what they use. They spend far more time writing the request to get me to do it than they would sitting down and picking a clip of the show they wrote, produced, and aired to irritate and waste time of the clip show team because they are angry they have to do any work at all for it. Something every other show has no issue with. Mind you, they spend more time doing it in protest after claiming to be too busy to do it themselves. That sounds like a perfect opportunity to just clip anything in the show and just say, oh, well, I thought it was the best thing and you didn't want to do it, so let's do this. 1 minute late is late? Okay. So I had some attendance issues at an old job. Not really. The policy was that within 5 minutes of the shift is still considered on time. Well, I had a manager who wanted to abruptly change corporate policy and define clearly that late equals late. So, background. It's retail and I'm in my senior year of college. I'm not making a career out of this job, and I'm 5 years older than all of my co-workers. My immediate manager felt threatened by me, as I had previously declined leadership positions to finish school. He always had something he needed to fix about me, even though I had 7 straight months of rockstar performance, exceeding metrics by 10% above goal. And I frequently aided in training new employees. Once again, this was a college filler, not a career move for me. I'm not a bad employee, however, I was a busy employee. My last semester working there, I had 5 classes, and would be usually within a minute or two to my shift. So manager one day specifies I'm late. It's 3:01 and my shift starts at 3, to which I said, marginally. He, in front of the other co-workers, decides he's gonna put his foot down. No, OP, 1 minute late is late. So I stopped my task and calmly asked him, then what does it mean when I'm staying 45 minutes after my shift to help when we're short-staffed? And he said, we don't even want to have this conversation right now, and left. To be fair, he's not wrong. He handled the situation wrong. If he wanted me to change something, we could have talked in private. He wanted to swing around in front of the new hires. So I complied. I made it a point to clock in and out exactly when my shift starts and ends. It's glorious. A couple weeks later, he tells me that I need to do something 2 minutes before my shift ends. So I start the task, and 2 minutes later I said, sorry manager, my shift is over. Clocked out and left. My mindset is go ahead, try to fire the best looking employee on paper for working exactly his shift and not a second longer. He didn't want to swing around after that. I'll never understand people that get so mad over like 1 minute or even like 5 minutes. If you get the work done, then you get the work done, don't you? A tale of tricks and treats. Once upon a 9 PM dreary, I was trick-or-treating around the neighborhood with my younger brother. The two of us were having a magical time until we knocked on the door of a neighbor who took it upon himself to make sure we truly deserved those 10-cent fun-sized Snicker bars. Customary greetings of trick or treat and happy Halloween were exchanged before we dove for the cauldron of candy, but that wasn't enough to appease the guardian of Halloween. He swiped the cauldron out of our reach and scrunched his face in scrutiny. Are you two in middle school? He asked dubiously. No, I replied, wondering what some intrepid middle schoolers must have done to incur his wrath. He still clutched the candy cauldron, pondering his next move in this game of wits that my brother and I had unknowingly stumbled into. Finally, he broke his silence with a riddle that could stump even the most learned philosophers. Are you sure you're not in middle school? For a moment, I wondered if we'd ever escape this quagmire of insanity, if the candy was really worth the loss of our very minds. What could us being in middle school possibly have to do with… Oh, I suddenly understood. He thought middle schoolers were too old to be trick-or-treating. With inspired confidence, I stared down this cursed candy golem and replied truthfully, no, neither of us are in middle school. Giving us one last look of incredulity, he finally relented. My brother and I took our hard-won candy and made our way back home as heroes. Or as Goofy and Zorro. My memory's a little fuzzy. And as we bid the Sugar Sentinel a final Happy Halloween, I wondered if the true prize was not the 10 ounces of chocolate our mother would be stealing later, but the satisfaction of outsmarting a genuine monster. You see, our family for generations has been cursed with youth. Neither of us were in middle school, it's true. We were both high schoolers, and I was only a few months from graduating. If you're like 30, 40, 50, I'll still hand out sweets to you if you're like dressed in a costume. Who cares how old you are? That's so stupid. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you very soon.